Why are we here? Are we here because of a phone call?
We are here, sir, because President Trump corruptly abused his power and then he tried to cover it up. And we are here, sir, to follow the facts, apply the law, be guided by the Constitution, and present the truth to the American people. That is why we are here, Mr. Sekulow. And if you don't know, now you know.
And if you don't know, now you know.
All right. Hello, I'm Dan.
And I'm Eitan.
All right, guys, you can reach us at epodibus@gmail and at epodibus on Twitter. All right, and if you click on the show notes, you can become a supporter of ours for as little as how much?
99 cents.
99 cents a month.
Really, whatever you want. By the way,
yeah.
We didn't really actually welcome anyone to the show, so welcome to the show. Dan just wants your money. I want to welcome you guys.
Yes, I'm just going to take your money and just put it in my pocket and put it in the limo fund.
Yeah, well, 99 cents at a time. We're almost there.
Also, we were unexpectedly off last week. Some of us were sick.
Some of us were also sick.
I was dealing with the sickness. Mine was way worse. I'm still a little sick right now.
Not a competition. Not a competition.
Because I won. I crushed it. On today's podcast, we'll be discussing a very, very short, simple subject. Freedom!
Whose freedom are we talking about?
Whose freedom are we talking about? I'm assuming the American people. Which is our favorite.
Alert.
Our favorite people.
First up, though. So, Dan, I was looking through the notes for the episode that we were going to have last week.
Yeah.
And you know what the first thing on it was?
Iran?
Yeah, dude, you peaked.
All right, I peaked.
You totally peaked. But still, how long has Iran been? Like, this is when they launched the missiles into the bases in Iraq.
And by
that feels like years ago.
It does feel like years ago. And also because the Dems, again, did a really horrible job at messaging. They should have been messaging the hell out of it from the moment Trump said that they assassinated Soleimani because there was an imminent threat to U.S. troops. That was a lie.
Yeah, that's
the lie I'm talking about. And we all knew it was a lie. The Dems should have immediately called it out and said, this is a lie. Because we know with a 99% accuracy and surety that it was a total and complete lie. Because if we were wrong and he was telling the truth, we could have used that as well. And we could have said, I mean, this is shocking that the guy that lies so much finally told the truth. How can we have a president that we don't even know if he's telling the truth or not?
Nobody used the word
They
lie.
never called him out and said the president is a liar. He's lying about an imminent threat.
Yeah.
We need people to speak plainly.
Right. They need to say he lied to the American people, cover his own ass, and say that this was an imminent threat.
You need to talk to people that don't listen to the news so constantly and intently as you and me. You got to get through to people. You got to say the president is a liar. He lied about this. There was no imminent threat. All that the Dems did was, well, why did this happen? Why did this happen? No, just say the president is a liar because he is lying about this, period.
Yeah, Dan, so much has happened since then. Left Partners released tapes of Trump saying, quote, take her out about a U.S. ambassador, about Maria Yovanovitch, not fire her, but take her out, which is this. I know, it's the same language he used for the Soleimani strike. Take him out, right? So
it's monster talk.
Yeah. Well,
Hey, yo, how you doing? I just got in. Lucky Louie from Brooklyn over here. How you doing?
Hey, Lucky.
I just want to see how you guys doing your podcast. But yeah, that guy, I'm telling you, he sounds like one of the guys who are doing bad things.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know what he was directing his henchmen to do to take her out. Was he trying to disappear her? Was he trying to murder her?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think it was more like fire her, but he, at the very least, he certainly sounded like a mobster.
I mean, we don't know. We don't know. Trump is moving to gut housing discrimination rules, which essentially reestablishes redlining and allows banks to deny loans to minorities and for cities to cluster minorities together. This is discrimination.
You think? Yeah, this is the reason.
At the worst.
Yeah, this is the reason why people of color have so little wealth in this country, is because they were legally not allowed to buy, housing where, the better neighborhoods were, which were white neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm. Over 50 United States personnel have now been diagnosed with concussions and TBI. Trump, the commander-in-chief, mocked them and said that they just have headaches. The commander-in-chief of the armed forces mocked these people who lay down life and limb for this country.
He doesn't give a shit about them, obviously.
And
he does not give a shit
he's making
about
fun of them.
He's called generals, to their
babies,
faces that they're babies and they're dumb and stuff to their face. Four-star generals, he said that too.
Yeah.
You think he gives a shit about the petty officer?
Unbelievable. The Trump administration is trying to weaken laws that prohibit American companies from bribing foreign officials, which is the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. Trump was quoted as saying, quote, "It's just so unfair that American companies aren't allowed to pay bribes to get businesses overseas."
Right. Now, please don't confuse that with the anti-corruption President Trump of the impeachment.
Of the Ukrainian. Yeah.
That he cares about.
Yeah.
So he's the anti-corruption president.
President Trump is just, this one's Trump and Trump. Okay. In a 2-1 ruling, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals threw out a case brought to them by young people trying to force the federal government to take action to address the climate genocide crisis. I mean, we're trying to get through so much here before we get into the main part. I think it behooves us to read part of the dissent from Justice Josephine Stanton, who wrote, quote, "In these proceedings, the government accepts as fact that the United States has reached a tipping point, crying out for a concerted response, yet presses ahead toward calamity. It is as if an asteroid were barreling toward Earth and the government decided to shut down our only defenses." Stanton continues, quote, "Seeking to quash this suit, the government bluntly insists that it has the absolute and unreviewable power to destroy the nation." And I hope that something happens with this lawsuit. I hope that they keep continuing to bring lawsuits because the Ninth Circuit says that they didn't have standing. I find that hard to believe at all as United States citizens. On Monday, 2 days ago of this recording, which was Holocaust Remembrance Day and the 75th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz, the Supreme Court has allowed the Trump administration to proceed with its, quote, public charge rule as it works its way through the courts. Again, on Holocaust Remembrance Day, the Supreme Court has said, okay, we can deny immigrants if we think that they're going to need social services. What's interesting here is that the 4 dissenting justices actually commented that they feel that this law is unconstitutional. Obviously, what's notable, though, is that this was for a grant for stay. It's not an actual argument before the court. So it's not usual for dissenting justices to actually say anything, to comment, because they were granting a stay to halting the law and said, okay, the government can proceed while it works its way through the courts to see if it's constitutional or not. But while it's working its way through, you guys go ahead and start discriminating. Steve Vladeck of the Harvard Law Review notes that this is the 10th time in 3 years that the Supreme Court has granted emergency relief to the government, with an additional 3 applications partially granted during this time.
What does emergency relief mean exactly?
If you are the government and you are implementing, say, the Muslim ban or something terrible like that, and I sue you to stop, then a lower court judge says, okay, listen, while we figure out if what you're doing is constitutional...
I want my Muslim ban.
Yeah. So you just stop, okay?
Okay.
Until we figure it out. Now, you're pissed off because you're an asshole.
I don't like Muslims.
Yeah. So you go, to the Supreme Court and the government can go to the Supreme Court and say, I got my guys in there. Yeah, exactly. I want relief from this injunction, which stops me. That's an injunction.
I need relief so that I can oppress people.
Exactly.
I mean, make America safe again.
Yeah. So... In contrast, in the 16 years between Bush and Obama, the government only asked for injunctive relief or stay 8 times. None of those 8 during Bush or Obama were 5-4 rulings.
Yeah.
And now 6 of the 13 were 5-4.
Yeah, the court is basically, another political wing.
So... yeah, this used to not be political, and that's what's really scary is how much he has stacked the court. That's what's important to know here.
The last
And that's why the second.
The last justice that got put in there literally said there was a conspiracy, okay, that was created by the Clintons.
Yeah.
And he said that everyone will pay for what they put them through. I mean, this is what we're talking about.
This is very much like the MS St. Louis, which was the boat filled with Jewish refugees during the Holocaust that the United States and other nations turned away and ultimately had to go back to Europe, and many were killed, were executed. This is Trump's form of eugenics, just like was happening in Europe during the Holocaust, of turning away primarily black and brown people and people of color to go back to their country where they will be tortured, where they will be killed, imprisoned. I mean, what's the difference between this and the 1940s?
Very similar.
It is very similar.
We have a white racist in power who doesn't really give a shit about people that aren't white. The impeachment. So you got Justice Roberts, right? The fact of the matter is, Roberts has the power to say, yeah, I want witnesses. I want this to be like a normal trial would be and have witnesses.
Yep.
And he can do that. So I think what the messaging should be here. Now, I think this is more for messaging down the road, because I do think that eventually, even if Roberts says, let's get witnesses, and if there are witnesses, I still think the Republicans are going to vote to acquit. That's just what's going to happen, because they don't care. They're tied in. They're locked in now with this. So that's just what's going to happen. But what I think people should be right now, the messaging should be, Roberts, do your job. Okay? Yeah. Roberts, do your job.
Yeah.
So then when he doesn't, we can again say, look, the courts are stacked against us. Look at Roberts not allowing witnesses, not running it like a judge ought to. Roberts, do your job. That's what everyone should be screaming right now.
Yeah.
And then later you can say, see, this is what happens when the justice, which is supposed to be an equal part of this holy trinity here, when they don't do their job, then a totalitarian president gets his way.
In a public appearance once, John Roberts said, "You wonder if you're going to be John Marshall or you're going to be Roger Taney. The answer is, of course, you are certainly not going to be John Marshall, but you want to avoid the danger of being Roger Taney." So I had to look up who Roger Taney was. He was the Chief Justice that presided over the Dred Scott decision, basically affirmed that slaves are property. And it's widely regarded as the worst Supreme Court decision in history. And Roberts is such an institutionalist, but I don't think that he is. I think he really runs the risk of being very close to Roger Taney. I mean, look at him with gutting voting rights. What he just did with public charge. Look at all of his rulings.
Citizens United.
Tossing out gerrymandering.
So he's just part of the problem, man. He's part of the problem.
Weeks ago, we talked about Jonathan Turley when he was testifying before the House and saying how Trump was totally exonerated and how he lent whatever credibility he had to this grifter, to Trump. What Roberts is doing is saying, hey, I'm an institutionalist, but he lends whatever credibility he has as the Chief Justice to the dismantling of democracy. It's a two-pronged attack. You have somebody like Trump and the majority of the Repug Party right in your face, and Fox News right in your face. And then you have people say like Susan Collins, who everyone, she's a moderate. What makes her a moderate? Nothing makes her a moderate. She voted for Kavanaugh. And you have people like Roberts who, says, he has the weight of the country on his shoulder. I'm paraphrasing. Keeping the court nonpartisan, and that is just absolute bullshit. He's dismantling it from the inside.
It's all about not wanting to change the power structure, which is white male supremacy in this country. Right. And that's where he's comfortable. That's where he was able to succeed in life. He doesn't want to see that being changed.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the problem.
And that actually is that brings us actually to our main subject today of freedom.
I've been looking for freedom.
Hey, Dan, what's up?
Dude, you know what's up? Anchor.
Yeah, Anchor is what's up.
It is the best and easiest way to make a podcast,
It
bar
is.
none.
Oh, absolutely. It's totally free.
Yeah,
So,
gratis.
yeah.
That's Latin for free. Like that's how good this thing is. We're
awesome.
using Latin, dude.
Yeah.
Shit's getting real.
And you can record and edit
Yeah.
the podcast right from your phone or your computer. You don't have to have fancy stuff. We have fancy stuff. We're fancy people.
We are very fancy.
We're like the humble, fancy people. Yeah.
Yeah. But we're of the people though.
Yeah.
And that's what's great about Anchor. Anchor's for the people.
Right.
Any kid with a phone can just do it.
And you can make money off of it with no minimum listenership.
Yeah, exactly. Anchor hooks you up with sponsors.
Hell yeah.
And you just do ads for them.
You just
and
do what
you get
want.
paid.
And they'll distribute the podcast everywhere. Spotify, Apple Podcast,
Google,
yeah,
podcasts,
you name
all
it.
that.
They'll go to space for you. They love you. Yeah.
Dude,
Anchor.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's free. And it has a lot of great tools. You can do these little videos for like social media and stuff that they make for you, and it's amazing and it's free.
So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Yeah, that's anchor.fm. Do it, guys. Start your own podcast.
Yeah. Dan, we got an important topic today. I think it's important that in addition to going through the news and discussing how the events reflect progressivism and more importantly, Americanism, that we also discuss some of the larger but more foundational concepts from time to time.
Sure.
Right? So these would be things like freedom and liberty, healthcare, immigration, our freedom to stay alive. That's a big one, and many others.
Oh, yeah.
So freedom seemed like a good topic to discuss since it's all-encompassing. So what is freedom? Freedom is the ability to do what one wants when one wants, but the issue with that is that's essentially a dictionary definition, and it's not a practical, real-world definition.
I do not like dictionaries, God knows.
I know, there's words, so many words.
Just so many words. They're so heavy.
But like, even if you own your own home, you're on your own property, you still don't have the freedom to, say, like, dump toxic waste into the ground.
Okay, hold on there, boy. It's my property, right?
No, you can't do that.
You can't say I can't dump. Is that a law? Is that like really a law though?
Yeah, they're toxic waste.
They're on my private property. I can't dump.
Yeah, you can't do that, Cletus.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I'm gonna look that one up there.
One day, I want to meet a guy with a PhD named Cletus. The reason there are laws is because there's an understanding that it would harm other people, right? It would go into the water supply, or you spray it in the air, or it would poison other people. Unfortunately, Democrats and progressives have ceded this word to repugs, like we have other ideas such as life, taxation, liberty. We've even ceded the idea of the American flag to Republicans. In fact, 2 joint studies show how even a subtle, non-conscious exposure to even a very small picture of the American flag primes people to become more conservative. And those effects last up to 8 months.
Love it or leave it. That's my flag. All right, I got a flag thing to wipe your feet on my.
You wipe your feet on the flag?
Well, I mean, because it was on sale at the Walmart, and it's a reminder that my country is right under me.
That's awful.
That was like literally right there, and I'm like, oh yeah, America, 2020.
The problem that we as Americans have is that we have different starting lines from the Repug Party, and we, for some reason, are under the illusion that our starting line, because it makes sense to us, must therefore be the starting line for everyone, including Repugs. This is why we're still shocked to this day to see why Trump could make such a racist or misogynistic or anti-Semitic or Islamophobic or anti-Hispanic or statement.
This is just a lot of words that haters use against Trump.
And every time we're shocked because we have the starting point where people don't do that, but they have a different starting point where that's okay. I also think it's why Obama was continuously blindsided by the Repugs, because his starting point was that everyone wants what's best for the country, while theirs was simply that they have to win at all costs, and that winning was a zero-sum game.
Winning is everything. It's not only the only thing, but it's like the only thing.
So our starting point is that we want as much freedom for everyone, and that means some very minor restrictions on individuals for the goods of all Americans. That is what's called a democracy.
Right. I mean, there's literally no culture, no anywhere in the world that is absolutely 100% free where you can just do whatever you want. Ugh. I mean, even hunter-gatherers, they had restrictions on their freedom.
So, like in modern day, we see a lot of these minor rules or things like, say, a stoplight. You have to stop at a red light so that someone else may go through. We have speed limits to ensure the safety of yourself and others. So, yes, they do impinge on your personal freedoms to go as fast as you want and to never stop unless you decide to, but it enhances the freedom of everyone.
Man, but I got a need for speed, man. I gotta have my freedom to just put the damn foot to the damn thing and just burn. All right, fucking communists.
So if you were in say like a giant truck and just went through stoplights at 60 miles per hour.
Oh yeah, go on. That's my Sunday, boy.
And you hit everything in your way, you destroyed property, you injured people, you killed people.
Okay.
Then
wait, hold on.
Well, then
you got something on me?
Yeah, the freedom of the people that you hurt and killed were severely diminished, much more so than however much, quote, freedom of yours was temporarily enhanced, right? Isn't that right, Cletus?
I mean, here's the thing. I'm pretty sure I didn't hit any white people, so ain't that big a deal.
So let's talk about our starting points. You good with that?
Yeah, okay. Let's do it.
So according to cognitive scientist George Lakoff, progressive Americans have the starting line of freedom for everyone, which requires the concepts of empathy and acceptance. For conservatives, however, and members of the Repug Party, their starting point is what he calls, quote, strict father morality.
Oh yeah, father knows best.
Yeah. So this means that they believe that there's a, quote, natural hierarchy of things and that the so-called undisciplined, which are those who defy the hierarchy, must be beaten into submission. It's not, and that's why they understand authoritarianism, right? It's not authoritative, it's authoritarian. Authoritative is, say, somebody like Obama, who commands respect because he has earned it. Authoritarian is a dictator who hasn't earned that respect, but who will beat everyone or kill them.
Till they die.
Well, yeah, until people, quote unquote, respect him out of fear. So they don't actually respect him, they just fear him. So that's authoritarianism.
I'll take what I can get, baby.
And that's Trump. Nobody respects him, but they fear his power.
Haters.
In their hierarchy, you have God above men, men above women, humans above nature, America over all other Western countries over other countries and cultures, whites over non-whites, Christians over non-Christians, straight over LGBTQ, adults over children, employers over employees, which means you can't have a union, the rich over the poor, and the, quote, disciplined over the, quote, undisciplined. So according to their model, you can achieve a high status, but only within your set caste that they set for you for some reason. I don't know why they get to choose, but they set for you. And you are undisciplined, or they'll use the word uppity, right? If you try to move above this conservative caste system, and therefore the only remedy is to beat you into submission.
I never called Obama an uppity N-word. Never.
Somebody called him uppity.
Well, not the N-word, though.
Oh.
I wouldn't. Not in public.
I thought there were recordings like from The Apprentice of you using the N-word that never made it to air.
Lies, fake lies.
Oh, okay. These mindsets allow the Repugs and conservatives to say that there's no such thing as white privilege because that's the so-called natural order, as they say. And it allows them to justify to themselves infringing upon our civil rights and discriminate against us. So these are things like redlining, segregation, voter suppression, voter intimidation, terror, and murder. Take the white conservative terrorist in New Zealand who shot up a mosque, or the white conservative terrorist who shot up a synagogue in Philadelphia, or a white conservative terrorist in South Carolina who shot up a black church. In their minds, what they were doing wasn't wrong because they have that conservative starting point and mindset, not the progressive American one. They thought that they were restoring, quote unquote, their natural order of things. This is why, as I've said often on this podcast, that they want us, the American people who don't believe in their radical caste system, their radical eugenics system. Those of us who want to live free in a free country. The Repug Party wants to disenfranchise us, wants us destitute and dead.
In that order.
I don't say these things to be hyperbolic. I say that because that's exactly what's happening. A quick story here. Dan and I have a common friend, and he was telling us about someone that he knows who he is not friendly with anymore, who was a Trump supporter. This is back in 2016. And our friend mentioned to this guy, well, Trump is about, white privilege and white supremacy. And the Trump supporter said to him, that's why I support him, because he will restore white privilege. Spoiler alert, this guy was white. Our friend is not white. I thought it'd be pertinent to share that story.
Yeah, that's very telling. And that's the thing is, like, there's this great fear that white privilege is under attack, and these people see equality as them losing their rights.
Right, but the problem is that they feel that they're losing their rights, but they're misusing the term rights. They're losing their privilege while everyone else is gaining rights.
Right. Or just people are just gaining their rights. They're not really losing anything.
Yeah, there'll still be white privilege for a long time.
They'll be fine.
Yeah, they'll be okay. No, we're not worried. How does someone become, one way or the other? Dan, I know you have a phrase that you've said pretty often, right?
Yes. Don't screw it up. Or let me say my own phrase. It's basically the average person, given the average situation, will do the average thing. It's very simple.
Yeah. The idea of what's, quote, average is something that we learn from friends, family, communities, et cetera.
Right, yeah.
Right?
So every group has their own,
of course.
their own average, their own rubric, how they...
So even from a young age, we're divided into groups of us and them. Social psychologist Henry Tajfel, who wrote the influential paper Experiments in Intergroup Discrimination, which we'll show in the show notes, said, quote, the most important principle of subjective social order we construct for ourselves is the classification of groups as, quote, we and they. And once someone has become they, we're used to dismissing them, impeding them, discriminating against them. And, quote, we will do that even if there's no reason for it in terms of our own interests. So we don't need to hate them or have ill will toward them. We just need to see them as them. It triggers an automatic response, and this is across culture. We'll always act more favorably toward our group and discriminate toward the out-group, even when there's no reason to do so. And he found in multiple experiments that an in-group is willing to harm itself if it feels that it harms the out-group more. And it's a fascinating study. Then there's social pressure. There's also like the straw study we were talking about, where like one straw is shorter, but everybody is saying they're all the same size. Yeah. And then the subject feels social pressure to say, oh yeah, they're all the same size. There are a million studies like that also.
But that was, I think you brought up on the podcast before, the Dan Rather, I think, was interviewing like an old man who was dying or something.
Right. No, I think it was Chris Hayes. Yeah.
Whoever it was. So the old guy's dying.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, well, if you lived in this other state, you'd have health care. And he was like, well, yeah, but it was more important to make sure that black people didn't get health care.
Right.
Than him having health care.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a really great example of what you're talking about here.
It seems like even in these experiments, when money was involved, when everything else was involved, that you could think of the primary factor was that your group won, whatever, quote, winning was. And it's the same social psychology around sports teams. Like we say, like, oh, we won today, or we lost, or why people get so excited about it. I mean, in England, they have soccer hooligans or football hooligans.
Yeah. And that's just, the moms.
With this bit of social psychology of groups and conservatives, it makes perfect sense when we see the Republican base, quote, vote against their own interests, because they really aren't. The most important belief in conservatism is preserving and extending conservatism itself. So that means climate change is out, fair voting is out, equal rights is out, because that doesn't fit within those frames. Dr. Leifkoff explains that how metaphors are the way that we experience and interpret the world. So when a fact comes in that doesn't fit your worldview, you might not notice it. You might try to change the fact to fit your worldview. You might be puzzled by the fact, or you might be threatened by the fact.
Ain't nobody coming on my land threatening me with facts.
Stop pouring toxic waste in.
Well, it's
they will
my
kill
land,
you.
Okay? And ownership is 10 ninths of the law. So put down your pipe and smoke it, smart boy.
Also, remember that 98% of all thought is subconscious. Democrats and progressive Americans always keep talking about the facts, which doesn't help at all. It doesn't.
That's huge. 98 is almost 110%, which is what I give to the country every day.
What Repugs know also is that wealth isn't about wealth. One of the major issues that we discuss, that not just we discuss that, but that is being discussed in society, particularly on the campaign trail, is wealth inequality. And
Wealth is, wait, did you say wealth isn't about wealth?
no, wealth is about power. So with wealth about power, I mean, Repug donors know this. They know that if they give to Repugs, they'll do their bidding. And this power, again, from Dr. Lakoff, determines where we live, who has the best healthcare, the best doctors, the best cars, who goes to the best colleges, how big your house is, vacationing, the best whatever, everything, right? But if you're sick and you can't go to a doctor, then you are not free. If you're not educated, you're not free. So a minor tax on the extremely wealthy who, again, most likely did not gain all of their money through fair common business practices. They probably got
There's
through,
a lot of studies that go into just how corrupt a lot of, which we're not going to get into.
But even if your corporation literally manufactured angels and was run by Mother Teresa, you'd still get these huge tax giveaways.
Unearned.
Right?
Yeah,
So that's unearned. Anyway, this is why true American freedom is progressive freedom, because we're a country that is of, by, and for the people. It's not of, by, and for the super wealthy.
Yeah.
And what that means is, well, by the people means that the governing should have similar experiences as the governed, right? By the people. For the people means that it is the duty and responsibility of government to take care of its citizens. Progressive freedom is started with the founding of this country. The idea was that citizens care about other citizens, hence the word united in United States. And we work to provide public resources for everyone, which, yes, does include businesses.
Yeah, but also it talks about the people's welfare. Like it uses the word welfare in it.
Right.
Like it's in the Constitution, guys.
Absolutely.
Newsflash.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's the first half of our deep dive
Deep dive.
into freedom. We'll talk a little bit more about it on next week's podcast.
Oh, yeah. All right. Bad messaging, guys. Dems who constantly use the word meddling to describe Russia choosing our president over us. Stephanie Kennedy tweeted, "It's absolutely exasperating and infuriating listening to the flimsy term meddling being used to describe Russian cyber attacks against the United States. Nosy old neighbors engage in meddling. Putin's a foreign adversary waging a vicious, relentless cyber war." Yes, agreed. I mean, basically, this was an act of war, what they did, and we're treating it like, as if it's just some kid who unplugged your Wi-Fi,
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, stop meddling. We're here trying to watch Netflix. No, this is like a fucking attack by an enemy country. It's ridiculous. All right, everybody, we got some bad messaging for you all tonight.
It's bad.
So bad.
We should get a sound.
Oh. Whoosh. We're in bad messaging. Whoosh.
This bad messaging comes from Representative Zoe Lofgren, who didn't necessarily say anything, but failed to say something. When she had voting machine manufacturers come before her committee to talk about safety and hacking, she didn't even try to identify the jurisdictions that these voting machine vendors have or had remote access software installed on their management system. So a lot of them said, they're 100% secure. They don't even connect to the internet. And then they found out that, wait a minute, there's actually remote access software on these voting systems, which makes them vulnerable to hacking. That was actually from Jennifer Cohen, who, if you don't follow her on Twitter, you absolutely should. She's probably the foremost authority on election security. And what she was referring to was the fact that many voting machine manufacturers say that their machines are hack-proof because they don't connect to the internet. And the New York Times investigation showed that that was a lie. But Chairwoman Zoe Lofgren did not even inquire about any of that.
The New York Times lying again.
And now, good messaging.
Good messaging
Is
Adam Schiff gave a brilliant closing statement, and we now have hashtag truth matters and hashtag right matters.
Yeah.
But here, right is supposed to matter. It's what's made us the greatest nation on earth. No constitution can protect us. Right doesn't matter anymore. And you know You can't trust this president do what's right for this country. You can trust he will do what's right for Donald Trump. He'll do it now. He's done it before. He'll do it for the next several months. He'll do it in the election if he's allowed to. This is why, if you find him guilty, you must find that he should be removed. Because right matters. Because right matters. And the truth matters. Otherwise, we are lost.
That's it for this week. Please give us a rating in Apple Podcasts or wherever you download your podcasts. Please also help spread the word. We're still a new up-and-coming podcast, and word of mouth is how most podcasts get new listeners. So, do it for America.
If you don't love a potibus unum, leave it.
Okay. As always, thank you to our supporters, and please go to anchor.fm/epodibusunum to become one, to become a supporter. This podcast means a great deal to us, and we both put a lot of work into it, so we really do appreciate anything and everything that you can do. We're at epodibus on Twitter and epodibus@gmail, and we love your feedback. Yeah. What do you like? What don't you like? What suggestions do you have? Is there a topic you'd like us to cover? Please tweet at us or send us an email.
Give us a heart in Gmail and give us a thumbs up on Twitter.
Sure.
We're not social media experts.
Okay. Remember, messaging is only half the battle. Mobilization is the other half. And one easy thing that we can do is call our congressperson and call your senator.
And add us to your top 8 friends.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We are also looking for anyone to help out, maybe as a producer, maybe as a friend. If you like
You
politics,
made that sound mad creepy. No, the friend.
maybe
what
not
does
a
that
friend.
mean?
I don't know. Well,
we can't be making friends with people.
A good person. A mensch.
Yeah, or if you're a fan of the show, or if
you're
you
a fan of the show,
or if you're a fan of politics,
Yeah.
or life in general,
Right. You want to help get the
radio, and podcasting,
Okay.
audio, stuff like that.
So, yeah, we'd love to try to expand and do more interviews and things like that. So if you or you know someone, then please reach out to us. See you next week.
Bye, everybody.